What is going on today? Welcome to another episode of Mental Strop from riversedgecutlery.com. Today we're going to be talking about the frame lock, also known as the Reeve integral lock.
Hey man, how we doing?
Good, how are you?
Good man, what can I do for you today?
Looking for a pocket knife, but not trying to spend too much money.
Cool. So as always, we have exactly what you're looking for. First one, or I guess the main one I would refer to is the QSP Penguin. The Penguin's really popular right now, and they have a lot of different model configurations.
I like that. I really wish that they made the whole handle the lock bar though.
So actually, we do have that. This is a frame lock. It's got basically the entire handle on that side. It functions as the lock mechanism for it.
How about that? I'll take this one.
Awesome.
The frame lock has become one of the most sought after locking mechanisms in the knife world, and it's widely known as one of the strongest and lightest locking mechanisms. However, it hasn't always been that way. In the late 1980s, designer Chris Reeve out of South Africa was taking a look at one of the most common locking mechanisms, that being the line lock or the liner lock, and he was considering how he could make it a stronger locking mechanism. Since a liner lock is almost always used in coordination with a scale on the opposite side, adding additional thickness to the actual lock would make the knife very thick and very heavy. Chris Reeve decided to take the scale away from the outside of the liner lock and thicken the frame of the knife and use that entire thickness of the frame as the locking bar. That way he ended up with a much stronger locking mechanism without all the girth of having a thicker liner lock plus a scale on the outside. And that's how the integral lock was born. And the frame lock that we referred to today as a frame lock was originally known as the integral lock or the Reeve integral lock after Chris Reeve, its designer. The main drawback of the liner lock was that it tended to fail under lateral stress, such as using it for woodworking or whittling or something like that in an extreme capacity. However, the frame lock or the integral lock did not have that issue. Chris Reeve compared the strength of the frame lock or the integral lock to that of the lockup of a bank vault. So if that tells you anything about the confidence he had in his design, there it is. While many liner locks use steel as the locking bar, as this small piece of metal on the inside of the knife didn't contribute too much to the weight, if the frame lock was going to be made out of steel, it would contribute a lot to weight and would actually end up being a very, very heavy locking mechanism. So Chris Reeve started working with titanium as the frame lock in order to bring the weight down while also maintaining a lot of the structural integrity of the frame lock. The first knife to exhibit the Reeve integral lock or the frame lock was the iconic Chris Reeve Sebenza in 1990, and since then it's been all downhill. While the frame lock still functions in much the same way as it did in the late 80s and early 90s, there have been some additions, including the lock bar insert. This involves adding a piece of hardened steel to the end of the lock bar that actually acts as the locking face between the blade and the lock bar. This hardened steel is hardened to the same or close to the same level as the blade. That way you're not getting a much softer steel or titanium or aluminum that wears out against the hardened steel of the blade, and this can improve the longevity of the knife and also avoid a lot of the lock sticking issues that you would have with a softer material impacting the blade. Additionally, Rick Hinderer of Rick Hinderer Knives developed the over travel stop, which prevents the lock bar from overflexing during rapid opening or closing. And both of these developments have further increased the utility of the frame lock. So guys, that's just a little bit of information about the frame lock or the Reeve integral lock. If you guys have any other questions, leave them down below. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes of Mental Strop, also leave those down below and be sure to get to them in the future. All right guys, we'll talk to you guys in the next episode.